Brother Jack, how are we doing, man?
I'm 52, and a month ago I married a 49-year-old virgin.
Okay. So is this your first marriage?
It is my second marriage.
Second marriage, okay. And I'm assuming this is her first marriage?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So you're a month in, and you are 52. So you're halfway home, right?
Yep,
And I don't know why I always go to talking about death. Sorry about that. But, hey, you're living your best life at 52. You got remarried, and you married a 49-year-old who's never had sex before.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm assuming that's why you're calling.
Yeah. We're having.
Can you just call me with a retirement question, man? Just be like, hey, how do we move the 401 over or whatever? I won't know how to answer that, but I can at least do as good as Hogan can, right? But all right, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is a unique situation.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we're having some intimacy challenges where we've had some attempts to consummate and with varying degrees of success, but there's a lot of fear of physical intimacy with her, and I just need some tools and knowledge to kind of help, because she basically, was single for so long that she just kind of divorced herself from that physical side. Pleasure was a foreign word, I think. So she's kind of reintegrating, even that language into that part of her life. And we knew this going in. It's not a surprise. We just are going to take our time with it. But I'm just, I'm like,
who are you, Jack? You're like the greatest guy I've ever met. Because you know what I was expecting? Hey, you know what I was expecting? I was expecting you to say, what's wrong with my wife? And you're not.
Oh.
You are asking me, hey, man, how can I grow? How can I learn some stuff? How can I create a safe environment? Brother, I'm telling you right now, if there's more Jacks in the world, we don't have all this nonsense, right? So you've made my heart feel good, and I'm just grateful to even be able to talk to you today. Just even your patience and your kindness is awesome. So a couple of broad, basic questions here. Does your wife have a history of trauma, or does she just never find the right person, and virginity was a thing she wanted to hang on to, and then suddenly it turned into late 20s and late 30s, and then suddenly she's almost 50, and then she finds the right guy? Or did she have a history there that she really needed to part ways with intimacy and any sort of vulnerability there?
That's a great question. She had the only trauma that really played on her ability to form relationships with people was, she poured herself into her work after a death in the family.
Okay.
And that was hugely traumatic for her. And you're right, time slipped away. The opportunities, I guess, I hate to use the word dried up. That's such a horrible term, but the opportunities.
Life happened, right? And we live in this world where if you don't, go to your 4-year undergraduate degree and then find somebody and you'll date for 18 and a half months and then get engaged and then get married, or you get your master's degree and then you're 29, and if you don't follow the road, right, there's something wrong with you, right? And so
and her purity became part of her identity, because it was obviously her. We wanted to do things according to God's plan, and she did her whole life. So that, combined with everything else, just kind of ended up with her where she's at.
So sure. So I guess my meta question is she interested in this? Does she want to have a great sex life with you and a intimate marriage and a fun, rambunctious, no holds barred relationship with you?
I can't speak to rambunctious, but I can tell you that she wants a normal life in that area.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, don't settle for normal. Okay? Normal's boring. Settle for rambunctious. Settle for two people that cultivate desire in one another. And
yes.
So we live in this funky place, and there's several great books you can read on just the evolution of marriage. In fact, me and my friend Rachel are going to have a whole event on this coming up in the next few months. But we've traded, in the last 30 to 40 years, we've traded safety for intimacy. So you meet somebody and you're attracted to them and your heart races and you can't just wait to make out, right? And you practice safety. Is he going to show up when he says he is? Is she going to return my phone call? That first time one of you gets sick and the other one brings food by. You cultivate safety. And then what happens is you begin to trade. Safety is butts heads with desire, right? To be crass about it, nobody wants to make out with their mom or their brother, right? Or their sister. That's safe. I know that person. There is no desire there, none, right? But there's safety. And then as you feel safe with somebody, and y'all two are 50. You're halfway through life. Y'all understand safety. Y'all understand independence. Y'all understand those things. What they didn't tell us in premarital counseling, what they didn't tell us in grad school, they didn't tell us this at all, and our parents certainly didn't model this because they didn't know, is that once you achieve safety, once you have the hard money conversations and the 401 questions and you make a will together, once you feel safety, then, and it usually happens in your 30s and begins in your 40s and 50s especially, you have to practice desire. You've got to cultivate desire as though you are practicing safety early on in your relationship. And it feels weird to practice desire because that's not what Romeo and Juliet told us. They said we're just going to walk into a room and be like, oh my gosh, there you are. Ah. Or, Jack and Rose, Jack didn't see Rose on the Titanic and be like, what we need to do is to practice intimacy. No, man, they were like making out in some weird car and then they died he died because she didn't let him on the door like a sucker. He could have fit on the door. But here's the thing. So you got to practice it. And it feels weird to put sex on a calendar. It feels weird in your case to be intentional about going slow and saying, hey, we're going to have a relational goal of here. And the moment she feels unsafe, she gets to call it. And then we're out and we're going to go again. And you're going to have to practice patience. And you're going to have to practice what I like. It comes from Emily Nagoski. I'm going to recommend a book for you two guys to read together. But you're going to have to practice turning on all the ons and turning off all the offs. Intimacy, especially in a marriage relationship, is so often ecosystem related. It's environmental, right? Here's a good example. My wife likes to have all of the dishes done and the kitchen clean before anything else happens in the evening. And I became so insecure, I started taking that personally. And the story I told myself was, she would rather have a clean kitchen than hook up with this nice piece of meat, right? And I don't know if you can see me right now, Jack. I'm smoking hot, okay? So I got to where I was thinking, I'm not really, but that's why I do radio. I got to thinking, man, I can't believe that she would trade a clean kitchen over this. And it wasn't until we sat down and had some hard conversations that I realized she can't stop judging herself. She can't stop feeling an entire culture that says if you don't have a kitchen that looks like this, if you don't have a heart that looks like this, if you don't have a period at the end of these sentences, you're not a true wife. You're not a true mom. You're not a true fill in the blank, right? I didn't know all that baggage that comes along, how much it sucks to try to navigate the world as a working professional wife, mother, all that stuff. It's hard. And so, dude, what I decided to do is stop taking it personal. And then I try to clean the kitchen, man. If that's what it is, dude, I've got you on that, right? And it took us having this conversation about what's the environment look like? What are the offs and what are the ons? The book I want you two to read, this is not a faith-based book. You mentioned that y'all are both Christians and you have a Christian ethic. This is not a Christian book. It's the best book I've ever read when it comes to talking about establishing good grief, James. We need a dictionary on this show. Establishing sexual intimacy, right? And so blow by the parts that you don't like, but there is an extraordinary discussion. And it's written for women, but it's called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And it is exceptional when it comes
I've heard you recommend that book before.
I'd recommend y'all both read it together. And it will probably make her blush. It will probably give her freedom. Here's one of the ultimate thesis of that book. Life is too short to not have an incredible sex life. It's just too short. Life is too short to pretend that guys just have a sex drive and girls just have a sex drive light. Those are not true. Either of those are not true. They're not real. And so she cuts through a lot of the myths, and then she gives you a lot of tools for how couples can grow together and learn together, and how women especially can learn these offs and ons and the brakes and the gas pedals, which is a different metaphor than drive. It's a great book for y'all to read together, but it's going to give you common language, and that's what y'all need here. It sounds like, brother, you have a heart of safety, a heart of go slow. And so what I want to do is give her some tools and give her some permission to don't use the word normal in your house anymore. You got it?
Yes.
We're not going to be normal. There's nothing normal about y'all two, by the way, right? There's not. You're not a normal guy. You're the heart and compassion you have for your wife isn't normal. Her being a 49-year-old virgin is not normal. I guess I say not normal. It's not common, right? That's a better word to use. It's not common. Yeah. In y'all's decision to love each other recklessly with abandon. And I want every single 50-year-old couple listening to this show, I want every single 40-year-old couple, 30-year-old couple, mid-20s-year-old couple, I want you to get into the mindset of establishing desire. Romeo and Juliet lied to you. That's not real. That was two teenagers throwing a temper tantrum that ended up in a murder-suicide thing. It's stupid. It's not real. What's real is cultivating desire, cultivating mystery, cultivating a spirit of, I refuse to have anything less than just a rambunctious, extraordinary sex life with my husband or my wife. I just don't. And so what do we have to do to get there? And that looks different for every single couple. Anyone who tells you like, well, you should be idiots. You work it out together. Y'all build this together. So Jack, I love your heart. I was going to tell him to call me back. You don't need to call me back, Jack. I'm curious on all 50 different levels. Don't call me back on this one. I love you, and I'm so glad I got to talk to you today, brother.